Please. So we're starting, right? Yeah. Thank you. Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat. So last time we spoke about karma mein akarm or karm mein karm, and how it is beyond the arena of cause and effect. Am I right? And then we took on the task of looking at what would be the yajna karma. So the last sentence in the previous shloka was about yajna karma. Is that okay? So what is a yajna? You must have seen yajna being performed in some temples, sometimes at homes, sometimes in some other public spaces. So what is your understanding of a yajna?
Chanting with offerings to the fire.
Basically saying some shlokas and then making specific offerings in the fire. Yeah. What else?
Sacrifice.
So there is some sacrificial offering which is being made to the fire, into the fire. Am I right? What else comes to your mind?
These offerings are made to the devtas.
Yeah, we read about that in chapter 3. Yeah.
Yajna is done for a purpose.
Hmm?
Done for a purpose.
What sort of purpose?
Any wish fulfillment, so that rain should come and
That is for the Srishti, right? Correct. So that is Devtas. For a purpose.
यज्ञ में एक तो अग्नि होती है, दूसरा जो भी चीज उसमें डाली है वो स्वाहा हो जाती है.
Correct.
और या तो उसका पर्पस होता है कोई स्पेसिफिक अचीवमेंट करने के लिए, या प्रभु की भक्ति होती है बिना किसी स्पेसिफिक एम के, सिर्फ उसकी पूजा. और इसमें सभी चीजों को ब्रह्म का ही रूप दिया जाता है.
वो तो अभी पढ़ेंगे, वो पढ़ेंगे अभी. हाँ, for purification. Yeah, so that's also a purpose. So let's look at various elements of a yajna. That's what I have tried to start this particular shloka with. So जो चीज हम अर्पित करते हैं वो अर्पण है. तो हम कहीं भी शब्द आएगा तो यदि यज्ञ के अंदर तो अर्पण कर रहे हैं, वी आर मेकिंग एन ऑफरिंग, राइट। और क्या चीज ऑफर करते हैं? सम मटीरियल थिंग, समथिंग विच इज ऑफर्ड। कोई उसको हवी है, कोई उसको आहुति, वो क्या बोलते हैं, जो सामग्री है, उसके अंदर कुछ स्पेसिफिक एलिमेंट्स होते हैं, स्पेसिफिक कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट्स होते हैं उस सामग्री के। सो दोज सामग्री, दैट सामग्री इज ऑफर्ड इन द फायर, right? So there is something which is being offered always. It could be samagri, it could be something else also, right? So something has to be offered. Yeah, ghee is also an enabler to help the fire to be to become stronger, right? And then there is an offerer who is the karta, and there is the act of sacrifice, that I, who is the offerer, is making a certain sacrifice for a certain purpose to be achieved. ठीक है, right? So we saw what is a nitya karm somewhere, जो हम डेली कर्म करते हैं, brushing your teeth to washing your face and everything else. Nitya karm. We saw kartavya karm. Now we see yajna karm, sacrificial offerings. Okay. Now, yeah.
Can you elaborate a bit on this act of sacrifice? What does this entail?
हवन की क्रिया, जो हम हवन कर रहे हैं, उस क्रिया को जो है हम एक्ट ऑफ सैक्रिफाइस बोल रहे हैं.
Is it just a terminology?
Just a terminology. Huh?
Sacrifice with something that you're giving up.
It could be.
Offering something.
Yeah. So sometimes we are using a certain term कि हमने इस चीज की आहुति दी, तो आहुति दी हमने अग्नि के अंदर, पर जो पूरी क्रिया है जिसको हम हवन बोल रहे हैं वो भी एक सैक्रिफिशियल प्रोसेस है, एक्ट ऑफ सैक्रिफाइस. उस तरह से
You're giving up something.
मे बी गिविंग अप समथिंग,
Whoever is the karta, the doer, is
मे बी,
giving up something.
हाँ, मे बी गिविंग अप.
Through somebody else, a third party is doing the ritual, then it's going through that person.
Yeah. So there is a third person as well, who is only an enabler. पंडित जो बैठा है, जो आपका हवन करा रहा है, वो केवल एनेबलर है. उसको उस कर्म से जो है कुछ लेना देना नहीं है. वो जो कर्म हो रहा है, यज्ञ कर्म, उसका लेना देना केवल जो करता है उसी का है. Now the person who is realized, the knower of Brahma, how does he perform such a yajna? A person who knows Brahma, who is already a realized person, how does he perform such a yajna? Now, can somebody read that particular paragraph? The knower of Brahma knows that the means of yajna is Brahma. Okay? The person knows that the means, मतलब जो तरीका है, जो जिससे हम कर रहे हैं, जिससे हम घी पोर कर रहे हैं, जो ये हाथ से सामग्री डाल रहा है, वो सब ब्रह्मा ही है. Brahma is the oblation placed in the fire of Brahma. So that samagri is also Brahma and that fire is also that of Brahma. The action of yajna or sacrifice itself is Brahma. So the person is so based in the Brahma obtains the fruit which is Brahma itself. जब सब कुछ उसका पर्पस भी ब्रह्मा ही है, जो सामग्री है वह भी ब्रह्मा ही है, जो अग्नि है वह भी ब्रह्मा ही है, तो सब कुछ उसको जो भी करता है उसको ब्रह्म ही मिलता है. Correct. So this is absolutely the highest level of yajna. But this has got a context, because when we looked at the previous session and we saw that when a person who is realized is performing such an action for the purpose of the welfare of humanity, then how does he still sustain to get or realize Brahma, or still stay in Brahma itself? So the next line says, thus the person who performs action for the welfare of humanity with the mindset of Brahma, he does not perform any कर्म, वो अकर्म ही करता है, जो हमने लास्ट टाइम देखा था. कैसे अकर्म करता है? क्योंकि उस कर्म को वो यज्ञ समझता है, और यज्ञ इस प्रकार से समझता है कि जो कर रहा है, जो करा रहा है, जो अग्नि है, जो आहुति है, जो उसका फल है, वो सभी सब कुछ जो है केवल ब्रह्म ही है. और वो व्यक्ति जो रियलाइज है वो ये सब चीजें समझ सकता है. ठीक है. Most yajnas are in the nature of offerings to the fire, offering oblations to various gods, okay, with the conceit or the ego of doership. मैं ये यज्ञ कर रहा हूँ, या ये यज्ञ मैं करा रहा हूँ, तो ये मैं doership उसमें आ जाती है. He has also the desire for fruits. But in this yajna, due to the mindset of Brahma and the method of offering, the destruction of the thought of fruit, it is a karma itself. Okay? Now, the last line says, this is not being said so that the person performing yajna starts seeing Brahma in each aspect of yajna, but it is to say that on self-realization, Atma Gyan, this is the constant understanding. हम यदि यज्ञ करने बैठेंगे और हम कहें कि इसमें भी ब्रह्म है, इसमें भी ब्रह्म है, तो उससे कुछ नहीं होगा. वो जो रियलाइज कर चुका है उसी के लिए ये ब्रह्मार्पणम जो श्लोक है, ये उसी के लिए है. ठीक है. एंड दैट इज हाउ ही परफॉर्म्स अकर्म. So we can now read next shloka. Okay, somebody can read aloud.
Many yogis or persons unrealized performing actions only perform
Dev
Deva.
Yagya.
Dev Yagya. This yag is performed to propitiate the devas or gods. This is well known 3.12 in earlier, and is essential for the circle of life. However, the knowers of Brahma sacrifice in the fire of Brahma. In the context of Yajna, Brahma is said to be the sacrificial fire. In the fire of the essence of Brahma, the knowers of Brahma perform sacrifice of the within bracket tainted Atma through the Yajna. The Atma which has the mind extra superimposed on it and attributes attached, such an Atma is sacrificed in the fire by untainted Atma, meaning the
So let's stop here, because
Okay.
It will become very complex if we don't explain
Okay.
the few sentences which have been read here. Okay. So the first part is clear. जो देव यज्ञ हैं वो हमने समझ लिया. ठीक है. ठीक है. चैप्टर 3 में श्लोका नंबर 12. ठीक है. अब जो ब्रह्म को जानते हैं वो ये अपनी जितना भी सैक्रिफाइस है वो एक ब्रह्म को फायर समझ के, अग्नि समझ के उसमें ही अपने सब चीज़ों को अर्पित करते हैं। ठीक है, वो भी ठीक है। अब इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट के अंदर यदि हम Brahman is said to be the sacrificial fire. Here, in the fire of the essence of Brahma, ये जो अग्नि है, ये जो ब्रह्म रूप अग्नि है, इसका क्या पर्पस है कि जो हम अपनी आत्मा पे कुछ भी आरोपित करते हैं, उसको हम कोई भी एट्रीब्यूट्स उस पर थोपते हैं। कैसे थोपते हैं कि ये मैं आत्मा हूँ, इस आत्मा का ये शरीर है राजन, मैंने राजन जो है उस पर आरोपित कर दिया, उस पर थोप दिया। ठीक है, अब वो जो थोपा है उसको मेरे को सैक्रिफाइस करना है, उसकी आहुति देनी है। तभी तो मैं जो आत्मा पर ब्रह्म हूं उसको मैं समझ सकूंगा। यदि मैंने अपने नाम, अपनी जो आइडेंटिटी है उसको यदि मैंने आहुति नहीं दी तो मैं कैसे अपने आप को समझ सकूंगा? क्योंकि मैं इस समय तो केवल एक ही चीज को समझता हूं कि मैं राजन हूं। तो ये यहाँ पर समझाया जा रहा है कि इन दिस फायर of the essence of Brahma, the knowers of Brahma, जो ब्रह्म को जानते हैं, perform the sacrifice of the tainted Atma. Tainted Atma is the one which has got these various attachments which have been superimposed on the Atma by yourself. Then we read further, the Atma which has the mind etc. superimposed on it. मेरी बुद्धि भी जो है उस पर हम लोग आरोपित कर देते हैं, superimpose कर देते हैं. And attributes which are there also are attached to that particular Atma. Such an Atma is sacrificed in the fire by the untainted Atma. तो मतलब जो ब्रह्म है, जो एक सत आत्मा है, उसके अंदर जो है हम इस आत्मा को, जो कि हमने आरोपित आत्मा है, उसके आरोपण को जो हमने अर्पित कर दिया, उसको सैक्रिफाइस कर दिया. Meaning for the tainted Atma to attain the absolute Brahman, it sacrifices itself in the fire of Brahman to attain Brahman. Is it clear? Are you getting that?
Partly.
This is the path of realization of oneness of Atma and Brahman of the sannyasis. जो सन्यासी जन हैं वो इस प्रकार से आहुति देते हैं कि जो मैं अपने आप को समझता हूँ और उस आत्मा पे आरोपित करता हूँ, उसको मैं सैक्रिफाइस कर रहा हूँ ब्रह्म रूपी अग्नि के अंदर, जिससे कि मैं ब्रह्म को ही प्राप्त हूँ.
Conceptually, it's clear. Where I'm getting confused is this doesn't say, but it implies one person, one Atma, because that is the Atma is sacrificing to the Brahma. No.
That Atma which he is created to be one is the one which is getting sacrificed. Are you getting that? You have yourself said that. I have said to myself that there is one Atma, which I am attaching all this buddhi and body and everything to. Right? That Atma is the one which I am sacrificing. Am I right? To realize that Brahma. Are you getting it?
I'm interpreting it differently.
No, this is the only interpretation.
There is one universal, the part which is associated with me.
I have created that association and said that it is a part of the whole. That's the difference I am making. Through my own ignorance, through my own superimpositions, I have created the distinction. which has to be now nullified.
Oh, okay. Now I
Yeah,
understand.
you get it?
So the distinction I have
Yes.
created has to be nullified.
Correct. Sacrificed.
The distinction has to be sacrificed.
Correct. Who has created the distinction?
I have created a distinction.
Absolutely.
And I have to sacrifice.
That's it.
Clear.
Any other question? Are you getting it? Hmm? Then in 426, can somebody read that?
Other yogis sacrifice the hearing, etc., which are the cognition of the senses in the fire of restraint or equanimity. Others sacrifice objects, such as words, etc., in the fire of the senses.
So now we have moved away from the people who are Brahmagyani and we moved to those people who are sannyasis, the previous shloka. And this time now we have moved to people who are yogis. Okay, it's been clearly mentioned. Other yogis sacrifice. Right? So people who are intent on the ultimate realization, who are in performing actions to realize themselves, they are called yogis, right? So if they are yogis, they are going to do what sort of sacrifice? That's what's being said here. So here the hearing etc. जो हमारे तन मात्राएं हैं पांच इंद्रियों की, पांच इंद्रियां हैं, उनकी पांच तन मात्राएं हैं, जैसे कि सुनना कान से रिलेटेड है, देखना आंख से रिलेटेड है. तो ये पांचों जो हियरिंग एटसेट्रा है, which are the cognition of the senses, they are going to be sacrificed in the fire of restraint, कि इनको मैं कंट्रोल कर सकूं, जिसके बारे में हमने चैप्टर 2 में भी पढ़ा था, 62 में, कि कैसे हमें अपनी सेंसेस को कंट्रोल करना चाहिए और क्या करना चाहिए. तो ये व्यक्ति जो है वो कॉन्स्टेंटली ये सोचेगा कि ये जो अग्नि है कंट्रोल करने वाली, इसके अंदर मैं अपनी इस तरह की चीज़ों को सैक्रिफाइस करूँगा. ये विचार करना चाहिए, ये सोचना चाहिए. और उसके बाद में कहा है अदर्स सैक्रिफाइस ऑब्जेक्ट्स इन द फायर ऑफ सेंसेस. नाउ वी सॉ दैट विषय होता है, ऑब्जेक्ट होता है. विषय से हमारे में इंद्रियों द्वारा हम उसको पकड़ते हैं. हमने देखा था ना, एक चार्ट बनी थी. तो एक तो हमने जो जिस इंद्रियों द्वारा उसको पकड़ते हैं वहां पर हमने एक सैक्रिफाइस का वो लगाया. दूसरा हमने कहा कि ये ऑब्जेक्ट ही जो है ये एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता है, विषय ही जो है हमने सैक्रिफाइस कर दिया. दैट इज व्हाट दिस नेक्स्ट स्टेटमेंट इज सेइंग. Others sacrifice objects such as words etc. in the fire of the senses. Okay. Is it okay? So whenever we are thinking of certain things to be sacrificed, we understand we are doing a yajna. As a corollary, okay? And that yajna has to be performed with a certain thought process so that we can actually get rid of that particular or dissolve that particular issue. Okay. So should we go to the next shloka? Can somebody read that? Others sacrifice objects. Others sacrifice objects. कि हम कहेंगे कि ये अब जो सामने ऑब्जेक्ट है ये हम सामने नहीं आने देंगे, या उसको हम Should we go ahead? Can we read the next shloka?
Other sadhaks sacrifice sacrifice all actions of the body and of the prana present within the body in the fire of restraint kindled by the knowledge of Atma. They dissolve all actions in the fire which is fed by the experience of Viveka and in the form of Dharan,
Dharana, Dhyan,
Dhyan,
Samadhi.
Samadhi.
Okay. So we have various pranas in the body. Are we aware of that? We probably take that up in the next sheet. Okay, next shlok, next slide. Now these pranas, the energies which are there in the body, are helping us to perform action, right? And they have to be, certain types of them have to be sacrificed in the fire. That fire has been kindled by the knowledge of Atma. So we have started understanding Atma. As we start getting more and more knowledge of Atma, we'll realize that we are submitting or offering many of those things so that we can realize the Atma, which is, in a sense, making an offering, making a sacrifice. That is what is being referred to here. And the next line is very important. They dissolve all actions in the fire. So जिसको समझ में आता है कि हमें अब आत्मा जो है, हमें उसका ज्ञान होना ही है, तो वो ये समझता है कि अब हम सारे के सारे कर्म जो हैं उस अग्नि में अर्पित करते हैं. Okay? अर्पण, अर्पित, सरेंडर, और
आहुति डाल दें,
उसका आहुति बना के उसमें डाल देते हैं, और उस प्रकार से हम उन कर्मों को डिसॉल्व करते जाते हैं. डिसॉल्व किस अग्नि, जो ये अग्नि है, ये किस तरह की अग्नि है? इट इज ऑलवेज गेटिंग लिट अप और गेटिंग प्रज्वलित by the experience of Viveka. Vivek is ability to discriminate what is Atma, what is non-Atma. So as my ability to understand and pursue what is Atma and non-Atma, that starts kindling the fire, which helps me to start surrendering or giving it as offering all the karmas which I may be doing. Are you seeing the relevance of this? Because when we look at Bhakti Yoga later on, and we talk of Arpan there, then we will see that that's a different process, and this is a different process. This is a Karma Yoga process, okay, of Arpan. And this Viveka is also in the form of Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi. Now, very interestingly, for the first time, Gita is giving you terms which are related to Yoga Shastra. And Gita is supposed to be some 5,000, 3,000, whatever thousand years old. And Patanjali is dated. Patanjali is dated at 1 AD. Okay, so some principles of yoga have already been brought into existence, or they were existing then, have been mentioned by Krishna in Gita. So this obviously is predating Yoga Shastra, Patanjali Yoga Shastra, and Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, which are the last three stages in the Ashtanga Yoga, are being mentioned here as the basis. As people walk through Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, they continuously keep shedding various type of karmas. And that's what's being referred to here.
I mean, time-wise you are right, but the assumption you are making is what is written here is exactly what Lord Krishna said. What I'm saying is Mahabharata was written later. The event has supposed to have happened much earlier. Both may or may not be, the transcription may or may not be identical to what was said much earlier. Maybe, may not be.
Yeah, so when we read the Sanskrit shloka, which has been written by Vyasa, who has been credited to write this, and Vyasa is dated much before that. Okay, so much before, let's say, first century AD.
No, I'm with you. Both ways you are right.
But I am not saying what the date is. I'm not contending whether it was 5,000 years old or Mahabharata happened 5,000 and Vyas wrote it 3,000 years later. No, I'm not saying anything. Okay, I'm just saying
Yeah, it still
predates the Yoga Shastra. That's all.
I've said upfront.
Yeah.
Either way, you are right.
So that is what is said there. And we'll see in this chapter itself some references to various types of pranayam and yogasana subsequently. And essentially, therefore, pointing to certain essences which help you to, from the yoga's perspective, to move towards liberation, mukti ke liye. Because this yoga, this Gita is written for the purpose of liberation. Okay, so it's not for anything else. So is, of course, Yoga Shastra. But what yoga we learn is very different. Okay. So can somebody read 428?
Then there are those who sacrifice material wealth in holy places of pilgrimage, make material sacrifice. They do this with the spirit of sacrifice, Yajna Vishnu. Those ascetics who perform penances, they deem their penances as sacrifice. Those practicing pranayam, pratyahara, deem their yoga as sacrifice. And those who are in study of the self through the methodical study of Rig Veda, that practice is itself a sacrifice. And those who practice understanding the meaning of the Shastras, that acquisition of knowledge is itself a sacrifice. Then others practice control with great effort, meaning purify totally, perform the yajna of controlled practices.
So there's.
Everything is a sacrifice.
I said that earlier. I said that whatever we do in which there is sacrifice involved is almost as if we are performing yajna, and you can therefore bring about that thought in yourself that what am I doing? Am I actually offering it in this fashion? Am I thinking like this? Because just the simple aspect of coming here and sitting down and understanding this Gita means that you have to give up something. Am I right or wrong? It's not going to happen without the aspect of sacrificing something. You're not sitting free and idle. You're making a specific effort. You're giving up something, and everybody does that. Am I right or wrong? Then only are you able to come and understand or try and understand what is being offered by Bhagwad Gita. Each of this is an act of sacrifice, which is the fifth statement here. So, as we are doing this, we should therefore understand that if we're making this sacrifice, what is the purpose? Can there be a small purpose or it is a big purpose? Okay. Should it be followed up by spending time to read a lot more? If you're going to read a lot more, that is also a sacrifice. Because you're taking time out from something else to read this. Okay. Am I right? So it is in a sense that if we are doing something which is we understand is in the nature of sacrifice. There could be many things, okay, we do. बच्चों को समय देना, किसी और को समय देना, सब कुछ जो है, बहुत सारी चीजें करते हैं जो कि हो सकता है उस तरह का हो, पर यदि हम उसमें लगाव से कर रहे हैं और सेक्रीफाइस से कर रहे हैं तो अलग चीजें हैं। किसी के लिए कुछ कर रहे हैं, लगाव है, तो सेक्रीफाइस नहीं है। Are you getting it? It can be either of the two only.
How does it become a sacrifice?
You say, you make it as an offering to give it up as time, which you could have done something else for your own benefit or for your own the fulfillment of your own desire. Right? Are we doing that? You understand the context? So we can look at them again and go through them just to understand the nuances in the other sentences as well. Then there are those who sacrifice material wealth in holy places of pilgrimage, okay? Make material sacrifice. They do this with the spirit of sacrifice. Yagya drishti. यज्ञ दृष्टि, हम सैक्रिफाइस कर रहे हैं किसी के भले के लिए, ठीक है? कहीं जाके हम कुछ चढ़ाते हैं, किसी मान्यता से हम कहीं जाते हैं जहां पर हमारा कोई स्वार्थ नहीं है, किसी दृष्टि से जाते हैं तो वो यज्ञ दृष्टि कहलाएगी. Those ascetics who perform penances, okay, austerities, they deem their austerities as sacrifice. Those practicing pranayam, pratihar, again yoga. So through pranayam we get to pratihar. Pratihar is withdrawal of senses. They deem their yoga as sacrifice. And we'll be discovering a lot more on pranayam, so I'm not touching it just now. Okay, so I'm just leaving that thought at the moment. And those who are in the study of the self through methodical study of Rig Veda, as prescribed, as given in the text, etc., etc., that practice is itself a sacrifice. And those who practice understanding the meaning of Shastras, that acquisition of knowledge is itself a sacrifice. Then others practice control with great effort. So a lot of people control themselves with great effort, and that helps them to purify themselves. Now that controlling, etc., is also a sacrifice which they are performing. Right? Any questions on this? Is this okay? So we'll go to 429, which is in the next sheet. I'll take. I don't. So 429 is some sacrifice prana in the intake of breath, performing purak pranayam. And that's why I said I'll come to pranayam in a little while. And others sacrifice the intake of breath in the prana, performing rechak pranayam. आपने रेचक पूरक सुना होगा, जो लोग योगा करते हैं. Okay, I am looking at 429. एक्स्ट्रा शीट है यहाँ पर, यहाँ से ले लीजिए. हाँ, कुछ मिक्सअप भी हो जाता है. So what is this sacrifice of prana, and what is this rechak and purak, and how it is to be performed? What is the thought? Let us understand that. The next line says, the exit of the air through the mouth and nostrils is prana. Okay, the definition which has been used here is that of exiting, bahar nikalna, and its opposite movement down into the stomach is apana. Okay. There is a section on prana in the Sankhya Yoga sheet. Anybody recalls that? No. So in that also the pran and apan are mentioned as such, as we are explaining it, or we are seeing it written here. Okay. Now what is being done? Some sacrifice प्राण in the intake of breath. जब हम सांस अंदर लेते हैं तो उसको हम पूरक कहते हैं, तो उसके अंदर बाहर जाने वाली सांस को हम सैक्रिफाइस करते हैं. ठीक है, ऑटोमेटिकली उस सांस को पूरक को रोकने का नाम पूरक प्राणायाम हो जाता है. इसी तरह से रेचक, बाहर की तरफ जाने वाली वायु जो कि प्राण है, उसके अंदर हम अपान को सैक्रिफाइस करते हैं और उसके कारण जो है हम रेचक प्राणायाम करते हैं. Is the first sentence clear now? You want to read it again aloud? Somebody?
Some sacrifice pran in the intake of breath, performing purak, pranayam, and others sacrifice the intake of breath in the pran, performing rechak pranayam.
After that,
The exit of the air through mouth and nostrils is prana, and its opposite movement down into the stomach is apana. Some restrain both movements devoted to pranayam. They only perform kumbhaka pranayam or immobilization of breath.
so when the kumbhak is performed, you are immobilizing the breath, which is a specific pranayam, kumbhak. We are aware of this? No?
No.
Not by the name.
So when we take in the air and we fill our stomach up and we hold that in a certain posture, it is called kumbhak pranayam. That posture is enabling the air to stay locked and does not allow it to escape. Similarly, in the Rechak pranayam, when we exit, we again bring it to kumbhak and we hold it. Again, there is a technique to hold it so that it does not escape, it does not come in. So there is, in the Purak, there is oxygenation of certain parts of the body which is happening. In Rechak, there is deoxygenation of that particular set of organs from where the air is being withdrawn. And therefore, in the Rechak, after doing Rechak, when you do Kumbhak, that is Purak, Kumbhak, then those parts where the air has been withdrawn from, they suddenly get a rush of oxygen. So the process of cleansing of oxygen in the cells of various parts of the body is happening through Rechak and Kumbhak pranayams. Rechak and Purak pranayams. So those who have not done it, we are not going to go ahead and talk any further. Those who have done it will understand what I am saying.
So purak is inhalation.
Inhalation. Yeah. Hold. Bandh. Bandh. हाँ, बंद लगाना. How many said they didn't know Kumbhak and Bandha? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay, half the. So we'll have to do something about it later. Okay.
I got the Kumbhak. But Purak and Rechak, I understand, and other pranayam I do.
Yeah, so we'll.
Kumbhaka, I don't.
So maybe sometime one should get down to doing it. Okay? We'll see how we can have a session on that. 4:30. Somebody. Anybody can read that?
Many others, controlling their desire for food, dissolve or sacrifice various pranas in the bliss of Atma, meaning various divisions of energies, pran, are sacrificed in the energy which has been controlled, pran itself. In the manner those who understand yajna get rid of their sins.
So many others controlling their desires for food. So when you have a desire for a certain type of food, you will dissolve that desire by saying that this particular. Uh, uh, so there is a certain energy which is going to be available to you when you are having the desire. That energy you will dissolve in those energies which are already been controlled by you. Let's read that again. Many others controlling their desires for food dissolve or sacrifice various pranas in the bliss of Atma. Okay, so in the bliss of Atma, it is saying that various pranas, various energies which are arising to fulfill or to look at these desires for food, etc., you are saying that I am working to realize that ultimate bliss, so I am going to forego this particular desire. Meaning various divisions of energies. Pranas are sacrificed in the energy which has been controlled or the prana itself. In this manner, those who understand yajnas get rid of their sins. So there are various pranas. There is a downward prana, which is a apan prana. There is a which is a digestive prana. There is a prana which is saman prana. There is a udan prana. There is a vyana prana. Okay, which has been I have written down at the bottom in the asterisk. You can read those. They have been taken from that same Sankhya Yoga sheet. Okay, it's part of the Sankhya Yoga. And whatever you are able to control, you then are dissolving other desires into that particular prana. Those who can understand that and do that are also able to get rid of their sins. So these are practices which are also part of yoga. We go to 431. That which remains after the performance of the sacrifice. Yajna Shisht. That Yajna Shisht is ambrosia or amrit. जो प्रसाद हम कहते हैं, यज्ञ के बाद में जो हमें प्रसाद मिलता है, आहुति का जो प्रसाद मिलता है, कई बारी हमें राख भी मिलती है, तो वो जो राख है वो अमृत के समान है, ये कहा जा रहा है. एंड दोज हु पार्टेक दिस ambrosia based on Vedic guidelines to attain eternal Brahman. So जिनको उसके बारे में मालूम है, उस क्रिया के बारे में, वो उस प्रकार से उस आहुति से क्रियाएं करते हैं जिससे उनको ब्रह्मन की प्राप्ति होती है. तो ये आहुतियां जो हैं बहुत सटल होती हैं. They'll be obviously the outcomes of those will be very subtle, and those outcomes, how do you actually bring them into your own practice, will lead to realization of eternal Brahman. So this is an area which remains open at this moment for all of us here in this room, because we are not getting into the details of each of those type of possibilities, how to do it. Okay, that's not the guideline or the set of steps which Krishna is expounding here. He who does not perform any of the above yajnas such a person does not even obtain this world, which is normal for human beings to attain. So he's saying कुछ ना कुछ sacrifice तो करना ही है to be able to be called that you are part of this human race and to be able to sustain your existence as a human being. Is that okay? Hmm? आगे बढ़ेंगे 432. Somebody can read that.
In this way, there are many yagyas explained in the Vedas or by the Brahma. Understand that these yagyas are performed by physical action and the action of speech and mind. They are not performed by Atma.
Okay, so it's very categorically again repeated. They are not performed by the Atma. Okay,
Knowing this, you will be released from the evil, meaning you knowing there that I have not provided them sampadik, I am without any action, nishkriya, and unconcerned or indifferent to them, udasin, will be liberated. After explaining the correct knowledge through yajna and then explaining many yajnas, now he places Gyan Yajna for ultimate realization.
so we have understood yajna, we have understood various types of yajna, we have understood yajnas performed by different types of people. Those who are Brahmagyanis, how will they perform? Why is their karma called that which is for the welfare of humanity? What sort of karmas will be performed? Yajna karmas will be performed by sannyasis and by ordinary people like us. So we have understood yajnas. And now he is going to talk about Gyan Yajna. Somebody can read that?
In comparison to that yajna which is performed for material things or is achieved when performed with material things, the Gyan Yajna or the sacrifice done with knowledge is superior. Because the material sacrifice gives food, starts the cycle of birth, etc., and Gyan Yajna does not. This is because all actions dissolve or merge in Gyan, which is a path to liberation. This Gyan being the complete water body or ocean, wherein all streams of actions merge.
We had seen this in the sloka number 70 of chapter 2, where a reference was made that all actions are finally merging in that Gyan, that ultimate knowledge. And what was the Gyan Yajna which we spoke about, which was mentioned earlier in our shlokas in these sheets? It was pertaining to that sacrifice of the tainted Atma in the fire of Brahma. Remember that? That's Gyan Yajna.
That is only done by the realized person.
Sannyasi, not the realized person. So, who is now almost on the verge of realization, he will have to do that, which is the Gyan Yajna.
So conceptually, what is an example of the sacrifice of knowledge?
Those sannyasis essentially are working at that as to how to let go of their own identity. And therefore, you do find sannyasis who are realized. Not clear?
Identity is not knowledge.
The identity is the falseness of what we have created with our own mind. Okay, that has to be let go of, which we have superimposed on the Atma. The wrong conception of the Atma has to be let go of. Essentially, let's say that. Simple.
That part is clear. You say sacrifice knowledge, then that
Meaning, sacrifice knowledge is not right. Sacrifice with the help of knowledge.
that's
That's the right. Or sacrifice with knowledge. This is here. Sacrifice done with knowledge. So, sacrifice done with knowledge, sacrifice of knowledge are essentially pointing to the same thing. Because when we try and translate from Sanskrit and Hindi, it becomes difficult, and therefore it remains with off and with and things like that. By all that.
the essential difference seems to be all the other sacrifices. There is a fruit involved. In the non-material or the knowledge sacrifice, there is no fruit involved other than the loss of identity or
The dissolution of the identity and the realization of that Atma and Brahma being one.
everything else dissolves.
Everything else.
Sacrifice here, I have a little confusion
Yeah.
because, like, from the childhood itself, the word sacrifice itself, not where what is told here,
Yeah.
is was being explained to us me as you are sacrificing means you are giving up something which you need it. So sacrifice is not a good word, right? Rather, adjustments or adaptation is the right word whenever you use it. So that's why a little bit uh,
Yeah. So when we
trying
are
to understand the new like word, the, the, the meaning of sacrifice being used here.
so when we look at, that's why I started with the term Nitya Karma. Then I went into Kartavya Karma. We saw that. Now we are looking at Yagya Karma. So in our lives, we first have to handle the Nitya, which is normal. Kartavya is pertaining to our life's duties, whatever stage of life and capabilities we are in, which we are sustaining our life with Kartavya. Okay? We have responsibility towards other people, all that stuff. Now, beyond that, we also do karma out of our own desire, right? Only to fulfill our desires. Now, this is pertaining, sacrifices are pertaining to those karmas. Okay. And you will now see that all the shlokas which have sentences we have read are pertaining to looking at those sacrifices or misconceptions.
So things which you really don't need it, but you are looking for those things, that should be sacrificed.
Those could be the ones you should look at for sacrifice with a certain understanding or thought as to why you're doing it. What is the purpose? So, desires, misconceptions, wrong thoughts, all those things will fall into that category. Yeah. Anybody?
Yajna then which is performed for material things or with material things. Is he saying it's no good?
No, he's not saying that. That is Yagya Drishti. He is having that thought or understanding or mindset or दृष्टि नॉलेज कि मैं इसके लिए कर रहा हूँ कि ये मंदिर में दान देना है, ये वृद्धों के लिए दान देना है, ये जो गरीब लोग हैं उनके लिए दान देना है, वो भी कर रहा है.
वो भी करें.
some ways, the sessions that we've been having strike me as being a bit of a snakes and ladder. We gain a bit, and when we suddenly go back to in 260, there is something 118, there is something back. But having said that, what you just mentioned, I think is also a version of snake and ladder. There is this yagya which has a tall ladder and takes you straight to the top ladder. And there are these other ladders which take you to the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. But they're all ladders. But you need multiple ladders if you use the other route, the material route, to get to the 90s. Whereas if you use the knowledge one, you're getting one tall ladder and you go up. Hopefully there's no snake ahead of that.
So the snakes and ladders of your desires and your what do you call good intentions.
Things and expectations.
You see which one is what in your own mind.
Yeah, I mean, one has to define the ladder and the snake appropriately.
In your own mind
And I
also.
think the fact that we are looking at a translation that was made more than 100 years ago, and therefore the English being used there has evolved in Chennai at that point in time with Dr. Maria. So I think we have to adapt to that in the words that we are reading and we are spoken to.
Without trying to lose the essence.
Yes, absolutely.
That's all.
Because today many of those words may have, with usage, various other interpretations or other applications.
Correct.
But I think what was meant 100 years ago is what we have to try and get the essence of.
Thank you very much.
No, I mean,